All right, just a quick video here. I wanted to test out this kind of suede paper here. It's somewhat of a porous paper. It takes a lot of different types of inks, seemingly, with my initial experiments. But I don't think I've tried it kind of in like a fall type of scenario using some fall tones in some deciduous trees, as far as I can remember. So we're going to try that out here. And let's see. I think I'm going to use some stays on ink here. I have a few different choices here to go with, but I think just for the sake of this video here, I'll try it. I'm looking at this one right here, trying to figure out what ink I used on it, but I don't remember, even though it was fairly recently. But we'll just go with some really fast-drying ink so that when I use my acrylic paint pens right over the top of it, it won't smear. Just only because I'm trying to do this in a hurry. All right, so we're heading into the fall here. Didn't feel like it over the past couple weeks with the heat wave we've been having out here in the West. But it's suddenly gotten quite a bit cooler over the past couple days, so I don't know. It just feels like that heat wave could be ending, hopefully, with all the wildfires that are happening in Southern California. Not around me, but not too far from the San Diego area, up in Los Angeles and Orange County. A lot of the areas that I used to go, kind of the vicinity that I used to, go hiking in some of those areas. So hopefully that get a little bit of a reprieve with the cooler temperatures. All right, stamping out the winter ash. You can see just how much of it is not being stamped out because you can use larger imagery in smaller cards. You just have it running off the page. You don't always have to have things completely contained within the perimeter of the the card that you're working in. With landscape stamping. So keep that in mind. So I say that because sometimes like I'm using these these images right here for my structure of my composition. It doesn't look like they'll fit in a quarter-page card, but they're just running off the edges of the card. I mean, you can have it, where they're used in their entirety, for sure. If you want just kind of a central statement of some sort of image, if you're stamping something out, like with a quote, it's a quote about a tree or something like that, chances are you might want to have the whole tree in there if you're doing some sort of a kind of little storyline, maybe. The Giving Tree or something like that. Okay. So we'll go for a couple different sizes right here. And let's see, let's do this elk right in here somewhere. I don't know if I want to go like dead center like that. It might, cause a little bit of visual tension. What you can do sometimes if that's what you're going for. But I think something more like, 3/4, rule of thirds type of thing. I guess it's not rule of thirds, it's a little bit just off center. Okay, and we'll go about right here. If some animal is facing into the scene, I usually put him into, if it's facing right, then I usually put them on the left of center and vice versa, okay? Just because you want kind of the viewer's attention kind of contained within the piece, unless you're doing some sort of storyline, where it's multiple pieces, for the same kind of project, and you're kind of always moving them from left to right and changing the pages or something like that. All right, but anyways. Okay, now on this paper right here, I don't think I was able to use my colored pencil. I guess you can here. It's usually on glossier cardstock or just papers in general, sealed papers. You can't really put down too much of a application, too thick of an application, because it's just not porous and textured enough, for something like softer media like colored pencils or pastels, something like that. But it looks like I am able to add a little bit of this, and to get a little bit of a value of it. So let me go for a little bit of a shadow type of application, just like I did right here. This is a much more matte style of paper than the coated gloss, but let's just say that, we'll put my light source maybe right here. And I'll just create a little bit of a shadow coming down this way. Okay, so I'm really pleased about this pencil being able to be used on here. Go with a little bit of a shadow like that. And if the light is coming from roughly right here, or in the background, it could be, a long ways away, but I'll just kind of go like this, and my shadow angle will be something like this, maybe. And then I'll just kind of anchor the trees down with a little bit of a, a little bit of a more gradual transition into the surface right here. So I'm just kind of spreading out that, because that's like a gray and this is like a black right here, okay? So it just kind of anchors that down a little bit more. And then this animal right here will be casting a little bit of a shadow too, like this, okay? And then there's just some different areas within this snowy bank. I mean, it's like with any of the designs, and you can just kind of emphasize the shadow work a little bit more. It's kind of hard to see on here because it's not white, so the contrast between the impression isn't as much. But if you get familiar with the designs, you'll be able to see them a lot easier. Just like around all these rocks, I'm just kind of adding a little bit of a slight shadow to them. And they just look more dimensional that way. So if this is snow, I like doing the shadows in, like blue tones or something like that. Something that kind of harmonizes with the color scheme. And we'll create a little bit of a stronger kind of horizon here right on the top. The snowy bank is tonal, and this is kind of a darker area. So again, I'm just kind of reiterating that a little bit with like a little bit of additional grayscale. This is, by the way, a Prismacolor black, a Prismacolor Premier colored pencil. So it's reasonably soft. If you're working with a really hard lead or whatever you call it, colored pencils, some are wax, but whatever media that is, if you're working with a harder one, it might not apply like this, or you might be able to just get like a 5% gray. But on this one right here, I'm able to get, I don't know, it seems to be going darker and darker. I don't know, maybe this paper is a little bit better than I thought in terms of its accepting of hard media here. I say hard media, it's pencil, but it's soft for a hard one like that. So coming up here pretty soon, we'll have the new imagery, the new Halloween imagery. So maybe instead of like this deer here, we'd have some tombstones in here. Okay, so that's that. And let me get a couple different colored paint pens here, and we'll do them in fall tones. I'll start off with my 3mm pens. I don't know if I want to go that bright of a red. Let's see how these kind of slightly duller pens work out. But I'm thinking about the fall tones right up in here. I mean, you could make your fall tones colors like yellow and white or something like that, but I think these trees right here would have a little bit more color in them. So let's try out the orange here. The orange is really, this orange right here is practically the same value as the, you know, in terms of light and dark, as the suede coloring. So this one's really kind of just merging in with the background. In terms of value, it doesn't stand out too much. It stands out in terms of color, and it's a little bit slightly brighter than this brownish tone. But when I'm applying this, I'm kind of clustering the leaves or dots together a little bit. I think that looks better than just you know, a pattern that's like where every dot is kind of like evenly spaced from one another. But just kind of let your eye be the judge of it. As you start applying kind of like details like this, I'm looking up at my screen, so that kind of provides me a little bit of a different context, but I can get, you know, if you're working like this, you're working in a small space, but hold the card out and see, you know, how whatever media is affecting the overall piece, and that way we can avoid kind of over application of certain types of media sometimes, especially if it's something that's really fun to add. And doing something like this is a really fun type of exercise here. So I do get carried away with it sometimes, or a lot of times, especially when I'm applying something like white, because the contrast between the white is so much more extreme. It's very light and it's very textural. All right, so I'm going to apply some of this down at the base of my tree too, because it stands to reason that fall leaves would be falling onto the ground right here. So you can apply some around here. You can kind of spread it out a little bit. But those little fall leaves down there will become an important kind of texture in creating a connection or continuity between, you know, the dominant kind of visual texturing and color scheme with the lower half of the scene, okay? Especially in fall. Okay, now I think that this can stand to use some red here, so let's go in and add some of that. And maybe I'll add a little bit less of this one. This red is pretty bright. I guess it's not super bright, like this cap right here, but it's reasonably bright, so I'll be a little bit careful with this. In other words, I won't be applying quite as much as the orange. But so far, so good. I think it looks pretty decent on this paper. And then, how about yellow? Okay, so yellow, we're adding color, but we're also adding, in theory, we'll see what it looks like on here. in theory, we're adding, a decent amount of contrast, I believe. Okay, so see that? That stands out quite a bit more because it's a lighter color than the base suede texture color. All right, now my acrylic paint pen. Acrylic applies in a pretty thick application, doing these little dots like this. So I'm blending with some of those tones that are down there. It's kind of getting picked up on my tip right here, so maybe it's not quite as light as it would be, if I allowed the previous layer to dry. But I mean, it's okay. You get a little bit of a fusion of yellow and orange, or in this case, probably more red, that was just applied right before that. But I think this yellow is now kind of bringing the, I think it's bringing the scene to life with a kind of a little sparkly kind of shimmer. Now this one right here, I wouldn't add in something that I normally add in, which is the white pigment ink for a little bit of fog and lighting. But you can do that if you kind of add in something like in the background that's also white, like a light source, okay? So this one's just going to be just your straight color and no real kind of white light. It would stand out kind of looking odd if there's no white light in there reflecting the things. You could put like clouds in the background or something like that too. All right, but that's a little bit of a fall kind of exercise right here. Let me try something. I'm looking at this and I think it could use a little bit of extra color down here. I'm not going to make this whole meadow down here like really green or something like that with like a spring grass or something like that, but it looks like it can use a little bit of added, like a hint of some color down here. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. And again, just the Prismacolor looks like. I'm not able to get a really strong application, but I don't really want that either. But anyways, I was just looking at this just as I was about to conclude, and I thought, this, without this green on here, or this hint of kind of warmish color, it almost doesn't look green over the top of this suede here, but this could look like snow or something like that down there, and I didn't want that. I didn't want it to look like a snowy type of scenario. There is a little bit of warmth throughout there. Well, let me see if I can get another kind of darker green in there. Okay, I didn't think I can do the colored pencils like this. I'm not able to, like I said, it's not like coloring on like white matte cardstock or something like this, but this paper is allowing for a more of an application of colored pencils than I thought I'd be able to get there. So I think that looks pretty decent like that. And I think it it just, I don't know, it complements the fall tones a little bit more. So instead just kind of a grayscale, black and white type of tonal scenario, we can go with a little bit of color and make those grays a little bit richer, or maybe a lot richer like this, but kind of in a subtle way. Sometimes some colored pencils are a little bit too hard. And like I said, you might not be able to apply it on top of something that's a little bit glossy like this. But if you have something like watercolor pencils, I've heard that watercolor pencils, because they're soluble, they can be a little bit softer. So if you have some of those, and if your colored pencils aren't working, you can try your watercolor pencils. Maybe not use them for a soluble purpose, but you just use them as colored pencils like that. All right, so anyways, that's the experiment here. Learning a little bit more about that suede paper here, which is pretty fun to work on. And like I said, I like the color too, but I also like the texture of it. I thought it might be better if it was a little bit more matte, but I don't know, maybe it doesn't need to be, and it accepts the things like colored pencils really well. I don't think it's going to take pastels at all. I think pastels would wipe right off of there, but this waxy, kind of softer colored pencil seems to do the trick without too much problem. If you're a colored pencilist and you've been using them for years, you just don't kind of expect it to be able to be, to build up several layers and to get really super bright colors. But if you want kind of just subtle transitions within this type of patterning and color scheme, yeah, it seems to take it decently. All right, so anyways, another quick card. Thanks so much for watching, and hope you enjoy the, I don't know, fall on suede.